Our embassy is a friend of Champions 12.3, and you could, and maybe you should be all friends of Champions 12.3 in one way or another. But maybe I should start, for those who don't know this, to explain what we mean by Champions 12.3. Now, Champions 12.3 refers to the SDG, the Sustainable Development Goal 12, which seeks to ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. And the target under that SDG 12.3 calls for cutting in half per capita global food waste at the retail and consumer level, and at reducing food losses along production and supply chains by 2030. In 2015, the government of the Netherlands, my government, formally called for the formation of the Champions 12.3. And I, at this place, should praise also my former Director General, Mr. Hans Hogeveen. He is the present independent chairperson of the Council of the FAO, but he stood at the cradle of this Champions 12.3 and still is very much involved at present as the co-chair of the Champions 12.3. Now, the Champions 12.3 is a group of executives from government, business, international organization, research institutions, farmer groups, civil society. These executives are dedicated to inspiring ambition, mobilizing action, accelerating progress to achieve SDG target 12.3. Now, the government of the Netherlands and WRI, the World Resource Institute, jointly provide the Secretariat support to Champions 12.3. And WRI initiated the Friends of Champions 12.3 to further broaden the scope of those involved in achieving SDG 12.3. Now, why do we need these Friends of Champions 12.3? And actually, in the introduction, it was already explained more or less. If we only look at India, and the being a champion of food waste is not something to be proud of. But in the recent report of the Champions 12.3, it was mentioned that the world is not on track for 2030. Estimated that 40% of world's global food supply is lost or wasted. 40%. And already in 2017, actually, a review done under 1,200 business sites across 700 companies in 17 countries, so it's a broad review. It was published by the Champions, and it found that nearly every site evaluated achieved a positive return if you pay attention to food waste, having seen 14-fold or greater returns on investments. Now, if I take the example of the UK, it showed that for every £1 invested in efforts to curb avoidable household food waste, households and local authorities saved £250. Now try doing that by investing in the markets. You'll never get such a return. Yet despite these stimulating figures, in their 2024 progress report, the Champions state the uncomfortable truth that SDG 12.3 is fast becoming out of reach. 2.5 billion tons of food each year globally never gets consumed, at a $1 trillion economic loss globally. When food is lost or wasted, the land, water and fertilizers used to produce these foods goes to waste as well. Now, considering these impacts, reducing food loss and waste can generate a triple win. It can help feed people, more people. It can increase savings of farmers. It can increase savings of businesses, households, and it can reduce the food system's pressure on the environment and help mitigate climate change. Global progress on reducing food loss and waste has not accelerated to the point needed to achieve the ambitious target, either from companies nor from countries. And with fewer than 6 years left, time is running out. That is why Champions 12.3 and their friends are needed. Now, I would like to point out here also the difference between food loss and food waste. I think we have to make a clear distinction. I was just speaking to Divyani, and that's quite often a challenge. I suppose it should be clear to everybody in this room, but I notice myself that I have to remind myself that loss and waste require different approaches and differ from country to country, from culture to culture. And to quote, I won't do it myself, but to quote the World Food Programme, food loss happens when food unavoidably becomes unfit for human consumption before it even reaches the people for them to eat it. Whereas food waste happens when we discard food that's still fit for human consumption, either before or after it spoils. For me, in the food system, I always try to keep it as simple as possible. The food system or the value chain, losses occur up to retail, and waste is from retail to the consumer, including that same consumer. Now, if I then turn to India and the Netherlands, we can clearly see those differences. In the Netherlands, we look strongly at the waste side, reducing waste in retail, horeca, and consumer level. I think the most important initiative that was taken in the Netherlands was the creation of the Food Waste Alliance. Samen tegen verspilling, as we say in Dutch, together against waste. Large retailers, governments, Wageningen University joined hands. And after a baseline study, and I want to stress baseline study, I think that measuring is extremely important. The supermarkets report that their losses, report their losses annually. And it shows the importance of reliable data, because now these same supermarkets know exactly where the losses take place. And the so-called food waste self-monitoring shows that an average of 98.3% of all food offered in the Dutch retail sector actually reaches the consumer. Means that 1.7% of the food does not reach the consumer. 7.7% out of those 1.7 is bread and pastries. And I guess you all know, thank you, you all know that when you cut your bread, there's always these ends that keep stuck. Well, you can actually make a very good bread beer, I can tell you, from it. 1.4 is the dairy products. That package of yogurt that's been standing in the back of your fridge for already a month. And you think, well, I'd better not eat it anymore. And to give you an example how these retailers responded to that, a big one, Ahold Delhaize in the Netherlands, they achieved a 37% reduction in total. And for example, by using artificial intelligence, they determined the strawberries' shelf life. A consumer may not from the outside be able to see whether strawberries will still be good tomorrow for that great evening with your guests. Well, with their artificial intelligence, they can exactly predict the shelf life of that product. And that technology saved them 70,000 kilograms of only strawberries. Now in India, the focus is quite often more on the food loss side. And it's good to see that the union budget actually has a target to enhance the agricultural capacity on dry and cold storage and to reduce post-harvest losses. And although the losses, as was mentioned in the opening, are still quite high, I also want to emphasize the good things that are happening. We've seen significant improvements, often due to market developments. Take, for example, the potato and apple value chain, where we as the Netherlands are very strongly involved. Some 15 years ago, post-harvest losses in that sector were very high. And a large part of the country was dependent on imports, on potatoes and apples. Indian entrepreneurs picked up this gauntlet and started investing in cold storage and sorting and grading machinery. Now, fortunately for us, the Dutch, we are able to offer the latest technology and the knowledge needed for that. And a Dutch company, for example, Allround, based in Haryana, offers sorting and grading machine produced in India. They, 15 years ago, saw that this was going to happen. At the same time, if we look at the onion value chain, still huge losses occur every season, though the same solutions could be applied here. And it's also interesting to see creative solutions being developed here in India. A few months ago, I visited Pune, and I met with the company Ecozen. And I'm happy to see Deepak here, because he also has a creative solution, I would say. But Ecozen, for example, they developed, for example, their EcoFrost, the brainchild of 3 young, enthusiastic graduates from IIT Kharagpur. Oh, quick, even faster. It's an innovative solar cold storage solution for the last mile, I would say. Farmers which are not connected to the grid or don't have the proper infrastructure are then able, through their so-called ice core technology, to guarantee cold storage. Again, an Indian approach of this problem. But also food waste in India, let's not forget about it. I had last year the privilege to be at the ITCF SAN conversation on food loss and waste. And there the idea was born to see how we can, if we can research food waste in retail and HoReCa in Mumbai and Pune. Now the Netherlands Embassy commissioned a study to identify data-driven solutions across the retail, hotel, restaurant and catering segments. The study was carried out by Devyani, Center for Responsible Business Conduct, and is to be launched shortly, today actually, raising awareness. I think awareness is the most important here. And I'm happy to see you here, Devyani. And you did a wonderful job in at least clubbing all the information available. Now, I will not cut the grass short for your presentation in front of your feet, but let's see what data comes up. To finish, to connect the title of this session and the subtitle, Collaborative Action is the Driver towards Sustainable Food Distribution and Consumption. This is something we have to do together globally. Learning from each other's experience, either bilaterally, Netherlands, India, or multilaterally, like in the Champions 12.3. Only together can we achieve that even with only 6 years left, we can cut in half per capita global food loss and waste. So become a friend in one way or another, become a friend of Champions 12.3. I look forward to these contributions and wish you a lot of inspiration. Thank you.